Welcome to Nothing But the Truth with your host, Chase Defis. Now, this is a podcast that I'm going to be creating involving football and baseball news. It's not just going to be about, what this team's doing and what this sport's doing and everything. It's going to be a little bit of everything combined. I'm going to be posting videos each week, or trying to at least, showing different news, different standings, analyzing different stats, everything like that. This is going to be a podcast basically about how I view the sports and stuff of behind the scenes, or how you should say stuff that you would never normally hear on TV that people are too scared to say. This is going to be nothing but the truth, so you will hear the truth about a lot of different things that people are too scared to say, and how they are going to be said here by me. Now, there's going to be a lot of times where you all disagree with how everything is going, or you may disagree with everything that I'm saying. But I'm speaking the truth and a lot of facts too. And yes, a lot of the stuff that I say may not be it may be circumstantial, and it may not have the evidence to back it up. But I know that I do my research and I do know what I'm talking about. And if I don't, then I'm sorry, and I will get back to you, and I will be the man and admit when I'm wrong about certain things. And I'm not scared to. I know most people are scared to, but we'll see how it goes. Each week there's going to be different videos involving the sport. I know that right now baseball is my favorite sport, but I don't have much news on baseball because I know that the players are in a lockout and can't agree on how the contract disputes are going. The MLB wants to start the season back up, but the players are disagreeing with a lot of how the owners want to do it. The owners want to have no fans in the stands, and they asked the players to take a massive pay cut already to play the game, and they want them to take another one, but the players are not happy about it. So we don't know if there's going to be any baseball starting this season. They thought about doing a 55-game schedule. They thought about doing just after the All-Star break, which would be in beginning of July. So we'll see. I'll update you on the news to come from that. Most of this, these videos are going to be about football for now. And then if you guys help me get this going, help me get the views, the ratings, everything like that, I might include more and more sports each time and start updating you. But right now it's just going to be mainly about football and baseball. And going into the football news, I could update. I'm going to be doing different videos each week involving projections, standings, playoff predictions, how teams stack up in their divisions, what players are better, players versus players, the best receivers, a list of running backs, things go on and on. I'm going to ask you guys to help me out, comment on what you want to see and what you want to hear about, and then I'll do a video on it. This is going to be a friendly podcast for everybody to see, and I encourage you guys to get out there and help me out with it. I want you to like and subscribe to this video and help me get the ratings up there and help me get to what I need. I'm going to be graduating college with a media communication degree, and I want to get this podcast out there and going and hopefully be on TV someday arguing back and forth with the big boys and stating my opinion on what you guys want to hear. Getting into this first video is going to be about the most important or second most important position in the NFL, which is the quarterback position. And I know a lot of you out there could say, no, that is the most important. What are you talking about? No, it's not the most important. The most important is your offensive line. And if you don't believe me on that, there's 100% proof to back up that. Andrew Luck, guy retired last year at the start of the preseason. Felt that his body couldn't handle it anymore. He lost the love of the game, and part of the reason why is all the injuries that he sustained. He sustained so many injuries starting his whole career, and he couldn't stay healthy for a little while there and was out of the league for almost a year and a half. And most of that is due to the horrible offensive line play. By the time that the Colts were able to upgrade the offensive line, it was a little too late, and Andrew Luck said that he had enough. Another example of this is Deshaun Watson. Not his first year in the league because he tore his ACL, but his second year in the league, he was sacked the most time out of any other quarterback in the whole league. He was sacked 62 times, and they thought that would be another quarterback with his career cut short if you have the same issue. Matt Stafford also has this. He has had fractured ribs, a broken thumb, concussions, all that, just because his offensive line can't protect him. Yeah, the quarterback is important to your team and is a big key piece to help your team win, but he's not the most important one. And I'm telling you this right now, if they don't upgrade the offensive line for some of these teams, their quarterbacks may not last. So it's the second most important position on the field. And you could say that it's the most important, but it is second to the offensive line. But getting into this, I'm going to be doing the list of all 32 NFL quarterbacks, going from 32 to 1. It is going to be a two-part video. I'm going to start off doing 32 through 17, and then I will do 16 through 1 in a separate video. Tune in for that one. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll get into this. So starting off with number 32, it's one that you guys could honestly agree with just because we haven't seen him play. It's Jarrett Stidham for the New England Patriots. They've already come out and said that Bill Belichick plans to start Jarrett Stidham as the New England Patriots starting quarterback. And we have yet to see what he is capable of. We saw what he could do in the preseason a little bit, saw glimpses of what he can do, but it's nothing that we've been surprised or shocked with. It's just he's just an average guy, it looks like, but we'll wait and see. I mean, I know that he's no Tom Brady, future Hall of Famer, could be the GOAT, could not be. That's for a later video. But the games that we saw him get in, we only saw him get into one game for 3 plays. He threw an interception, then got benched again for Tom Brady. Tom didn't like that. He came back in. And I believe that, they could have success with him. I know Belichick is a pretty decent head coach and could possibly take them to the next level with Stidham, or they could flop. That is yet to be determined. We got to wait and see. Now, a big factor that I played into this list, I factored in their stats from the 2019 season. This is just basically for the 2020 season. I factored in a lot of their stats from the 2019 season, but for most of the time, it's not opinion-based. It's more of how these quarterbacks would play if they had a good team, how they would play if they were fully healthy, how they would play if their team was fully healthy, their stats on their career, how they played throughout their whole career, and so on and so forth. I know that stats are a big factor in a lot of arguments, and yes, I agree with that, but sometimes stats are not what they appear to be. They could have horrible stats, but still be a better quarterback. And you could tell throughout their whole career that they are. Or if they're rookies, you can tell just by what they have to work with. So the next quarterback that I have on this list, or the next few, you might disagree with, but here's the reason why I chose them. I have number 31 at Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones took over for a hopefully future Hall of Famer in Eli Manning. A lot of people may not think so because he flopped after he won his Super Bowls and didn't really live up to the expectations that he presented for everybody. But I think that Daniel Jones is taking over in a good spot. He started 13 games, had 3,100 receiving or passing yards, my bad, and had 24 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. And I know the stats are really good there, but he also inherited a pretty decent team. He had no outstanding receivers, but he had Golden Tate, he had Sterling Shepard, he had Evan Ingram, he had Saquon Barkley. Granted, Barkley got hurt halfway through the season, but he had a decent team to work with. He had a decent offensive line, wasn't the greatest, but the play calling was kind of and the head coaching was horrible. So was the quarterback play. The head coaching was Pat Shurmur. We all saw how he flopped in the NFL already, being a head coach with the Cleveland Browns, and I know that you can say it's the Browns. Anybody could flop and be a head coach, or flop with that team. Well, that may be true, but there's been successful times where they've had it. had success. So it is yet to be seen. We'll see what Joe Judge can do with Daniel Jones. I know that he is going to be a decent quarterback, but I believe that the next quarterback on this list is better. And his stats may not prove it, but I think that he is. It's Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins came out of college with arguably some of the best quarterback stats that we've seen in the past, 4 years. And I know that college stats don't matter in the NFL, and I get that. But Dwayne Haskins, I feel like they handled the situation all wrong. I feel like they should have kept Case Keenum in the game and started him the whole season. And they threw Dwayne Haskins in the fire halfway through the season. He started 9 games. His stat line wasn't great. He had 7 touchdowns to, I think, 4 or 5 interceptions that he threw and had only like 1,100 yards. But that isn't with 9 games that he had. And he really didn't have any other receiving options other than Terry McLaurin. And you had Darius Geis injured. Adrian Peterson was his best running back, and he is not in his prime anymore. He's getting up there in age, but he's still a decent running back. But when all you have is those two to work with on offense, your offensive numbers aren't going to be what you want them to be. Now, Dwayne Haskins still has to learn the playbook. I think that's why they should have sat Haskins the whole season, let him learn the NFL, let him learn the playbook, and let him develop, and then play him. But with him being thrown in the fire the way that he was, I believe that he played the best that he could with what he had in the circumstances that he had. Getting his head coach fired halfway through the season and having a new one take over. And then he basically kept the same offense. That way you couldn't screw it up. But I think having a much better offense, an upgraded defense, especially with having Chase Young on that team, and having Ron Rivera, a great head coach in my opinion, is going to skyrocket the Redskins team. Now, it's still to be determined on if Dwayne Haskins is going to be the starter. This list is the people that I think are going to be starting, but we have no evidence to support that otherwise. So we will have to wait and see. Number 29 is Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew was a quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Got drafted out of Washington State, and he played in, I think, 12. I think he started 12 games. It said he played in 14, but he started in 12. And his stat line was pretty good when he came into play. Now, I think that his stat line shows that he had thrown for 3,271 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, and has started 12 games. Now, I believe that is a pretty good stat line for a quarterback coming out of Washington State that nobody ever predicted to be successful or taking over for a Super Bowl winner like Nick Foles. Nick Foles signed that massive contract, and everybody expected him to do good. Well, now, after 1 year, they ship him off to Chicago, and he's the backup for Mitch Trubisky. And you want to know what's going to happen next? Well, Gardner Minshew is going to be the starting quarterback. And everybody's dissing on the Jacksonville Jaguars, thinking that their quarterback play is going to be terrible and thinking that they aren't going to be that good, which I really think that they are. I think that they're going to be better than what everybody's projecting them out to be, especially drafting Laviska Shenault out of Colorado, a guy who had 4.4 40 speed at the combine. He ended up tearing his ACL, but he's going to come back stronger than ever and be able to play. He's a fast guy. He can run routes very well, and his catchability, we'll see what he can do, but I think that pairing him with DJ Chark, having him with Leonard Fournette, and having an upgraded offensive line, not to mention also getting CJ Henderson, filling that void with Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye, and getting Kayvon Chaisson, that edge rusher out of LSU in place of Calais Campbell, that team is going to be better than what people think that they are going to do. I still think that they might finish in 4th place in that division, but that still remains to be seen. Gardner Minshew, though, is a rising star in this league, and if you pair him with the right offense and you pair him with the right mind, I think that he could do better than what he did. His stats prove that he is good, but I put him at 29 on this list because, we still have more to be seen, and he was a rookie last year. Moving on to number 29, I may get flack for having him this low on the list, but it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick has jumped from team to team to team to team his whole career. He's never been consistent in staying with one team, And I know that having him with the Miami Dolphins really showed that, he is a true veteran. There was a couple games where he got benched for Josh Rosen, but then immediately came back in like either the next game or that same game to take over. He won 5 games with the Miami Dolphins this past year and ended up dethroning the Patriots off of the top 2 AFC seed teams. Like, they were the 2 seed, then they dropped to the 3 seed because they lost to the Miami Dolphins in the last game of the season. And it was a gut-wrencher for Tom Brady, and that's how they ended up losing in the playoffs to the Tennessee Titans, which, in my opinion, I loved, and I'm sure a whole lot of other people loved seeing that. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, his play was really good throughout the whole year, and I think that he could have done a lot better, but he really had nothing to work with the Miami Dolphins, and the team got a massive upgrade. I didn't have Tua on this list because I don't think that Tua is going to start right away, or at least, they might wait halfway through the season and then put him in, but the Dolphins owner knows that they are in a rebuild, so I think we're going to wait a little bit on Tua, and we're going to have to wait and see. 27, I have Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starting quarterback for the Los Angeles Chargers. It's not going to be Justin Herbert. I'm sorry to say this. Everybody wants to see Herbert. Everybody wants to see Tua, and everybody wants to see if the Dolphins and Chargers pick the right guys, or if the Dolphins pick the right guy in Tua, because I know that they were thinking about Justin Herbert. Sorry to say this, but I think it's going to be Tyrod Taylor, and I think that team is looking forward to having him there. I know the problem that Phillip Rivers had is that he turned the ball over too much, and he had a lot of interceptions. Now, another problem that the Chargers faced was that their offensive line play was subpar to what half the other teams usually are. They have a great team. They have Keenan Allen. They had Hunter Henry. They had Mike Williams. They had, a whole bunch of other guys that could help that team. I know that Derwin James on the defensive side of the ball was a big loss, having him gone for 90% of the season, and they couldn't really do anything. But Phillip Rivers' inconsistency and turning the ball over, it really hurt the Chargers this year. They went from a 12-4 team competing for the AFC West and almost getting the top of the division the year before that, and going to the playoffs and losing to the Patriots, to then having a 5-11 record, I think, or a 4-12, and getting that low. And I don't think that they are that far off. I think that they are just one good quarterback away, which is Justin Herbert, but you give him time to develop, learn the game, and sit under Tyrod Taylor, and I think that they could be a force to be reckoned with in the upcoming years to come and compete with the AFC West with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, 26, it's a rookie that I have a little higher on this list, but, we don't know what he's capable of, so I put him at 26. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was the number 1 overall pick coming out of LSU. Won the national title, and everybody, you had that whole controversy with, Tua or Joe. Every analyst out there was saying that Tua Tagovailoa was the best quarterback coming out of this draft. And I have to disagree on that one. And this is nothing but the truth, so you're getting the truth right here. I have to disagree with what they say. If Tua Tagovailoa was really that good of a quarterback, he would have went number 1 overall. He would have, went to the Bengals. And I know that when they played head-to-head, Joe and Tua, Alabama versus LSU, Joe ended up beating Alabama. Tua did play. Everybody says that, he was injured that game. Tua did play that game. He got injured, I think, halfway through or the game after that one. But Joe ended up winning that game and taking LSU further than what Tua did. And Tua had won a national championship against Georgia after he took over for Jalen Hurts. But then the next year, he lost to Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tigers. And Joe ended up beating Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tigers. And that was the only loss that Clemson had going into Trevor Lawrence's second season. Now, that's why I think that Joe's going to have better success. And honestly, you can sit there and say, the stats proved it. Tua didn't get to finish the season, yada, yada. But looking at it and looking how it turned out, Joe is a better quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa, and I think he will have more success in the years to come. But that is yet to be seen. We will see how Joe does this year in the AFC North with the stronger division, getting amped up, having the Ravens gotten better, the Browns gotten better, and the Steelers gotten better. The Bengals still need to upgrade the team a little bit more, but having their left tackle, Jonah Williams, back is going to be a big help, not to mention having T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, having A.J. Green back and fully healthy, and then also having a speedster like John Ross is really going to help out. Their defense still needs a little work, but that team is going to be a rising team in the next few years, and it's going to be scary to have them in the same division as my favorite team. 25 on this list is Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is the Jets quarterback, and I think having him coming out of college in the big controversial draft class with Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, all of them, having Sam Darnold come out, everybody was saying that he was the best quarterback in that draft. He is the next upcoming Andrew Luck, and, he is a guy that you can't pass up on. Well, coming out of that draft class, I still think that the best quarterbacks coming out of there was Baker and Lamar. Josh is upcoming, and I really like how he's been playing. But going head-to-head, Josh ended up losing to Baker, and he played better, or Baker did. So, and I'm not only saying that because I'm a Browns fan. I'm not going to be biased on this channel. I'm going to speak the truth, even if it's against my team. I'm not picking sides here, just to let you know. But Sam, I don't think is that good of a quarterback, and he might prove me wrong, and I will admit when I'm wrong. I will say it live on the video when I see it, but as of right now, Sam has yet to prove it. He was out with mononucleosis in the season last year. When he came back, they ended up finishing 7-9. We'll see what he can do under a new offense, having a better offensive line, having drafted Mekhi Becton in that draft, getting Denzel Mims, another receiver threat to help him. Losing the loss of Robbie Anderson, a good receiver on the team, is going to be a big loss for him, but getting that offensive line upgraded with Le'Veon Bell in the backfield is going to help you out a lot. So we'll see. Sam Darnold could be a massive upgrade than what he was, but we'll see. Number 24, I have Mitch Trubisky. I have Mitch Trubisky at 24 above some of these other quarterbacks, and I know that could draw a lot of red flags for some people. But for me, I think coming out in that draft, the Bears made a stupid choice not drafting Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes. So did the Browns. Well, that's a later video. I think we got a good quarterback now. But having Mitch Trubisky with the Bears, and after seeing how he was, and not last year, but in 2018 when he was playing, and Matt Nagy was the head coach to start the season, and ended up, doing really well, winning Coach of the Year, taking the Bears to a 12-4 record, having that defense the way it was. I think the defense is what caused the Bears not to be that good this year. And I know all of you are like, well, Mitch sucks. He's just a terrible quarterback. Not necessarily. There was times where Mitch had scored 24, almost 30 points a game, and the defense gave it up. Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator, was a big loss for the Chicago Bears. And also, looking on the offensive side of the ball, you don't really have that explosive running back. You got Tariq Cohen. What has he really done? Then you don't have a good receiver. I know you got, their best one is probably Taylor Gabriel. You had no good tight ends. You had, a terrible offensive line. It's not all on Mitch Trubisky. I think if you give him a good receiving option or a receiving threat and pair him with, a good run game, I think that he could do a lot better and show a lot more success in the league and have a better year from time to come. Now, I know there's going to be a competition between him and Nick Foles, but you got to give the man something to work with. I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but it's just the proof is in the pudding. If you don't have good weapons and you don't have something to work with, you can't have the success that you want and or need. So going on to number 23, I have Matthew Stafford. Matt Stafford has been a up and down quarterback in this league for years, since he got drafted in 2009. He's had seasons where he has had 4,000 yards, almost 5,000 yards. But he's been so inconsistent with a lot of stuff. And I know that last year, if he would have been fully healthy, you could have had a chance to possibly do a lot better than what you did. And having the Lions have a better record, so that way you wouldn't have had to have them draft at number 3. But Stafford, his main bailout weapon was Calvin Johnson when he came in the league, and he had a hard time spreading the ball evenly. You have Jim Caldwell come in. Jim Caldwell took over the team and ended up leading the Lions to an 11-5 record, made it into the playoff as a wild card team, and lost. But then you had him coach for, I think, 3 seasons, and he took them to the playoffs again as a 9-7 playoff team, as a wild card again, and still lost. And then you fire him and hire in Matt Patricia, and then do a lot worse than what they did, and don't have a winning record under Matt Patricia. Stafford has been getting hurt, and he has not won a division title since he's been in the league, and has not won a playoff game since he's been in the league. And I know that a lot of you can sit there and say that there's a lot of quarterbacks that have not won a playoff game or have not appeared in the playoffs, and you can say that they're good, but he has not won a division title, and he's been in the league for almost 10 years. I think it is 10 years now, and he has yet to prove it. His stats have been good, but he's been inconsistent, and he's had a pretty decent team on the offensive side of the ball. Granted, the offensive line play has been horrible, but with an upgrade at the offensive line this year, having a better running back in DeAndre Swift, and hopefully he can play a lot better than what he did. They still need a number 1 receiving option. Kenny Golladay is not, in my opinion, is not a number 1 receiver on that team. He could be a solid number 2 and close to a tier 1, but he's still a number 2. They need a number 1. Moving on to number 22, I have the quarterback for my team. I had made a list prior to the 2019 season, putting Baker Mayfield at 17, coming off of a great rookie year, breaking the rookie touchdown record, being a nominee for Offensive Player of the Year. Lost it to Saquon Barkley. I think Baker still deserved it over Saquon that year, but I had Baker at 22. He dropped. He's not in the top 20 in my opinion because I didn't think that he deserved it. His stats were subpar. He ended up going 20. He had threw 21 interceptions, or 21 touchdowns, and had like 20 interceptions. Or no, vice versa. It was the opposite. He had 22 touchdowns, 21 interceptions, and the year before that, he had 27 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. He played a lot better with Freddie Kitchens as the offensive coordinator than he did with him as the head coach. And yes, I understand that the Browns had a better team with Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry and Nick Chubb and all that. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but it is just straight facts. The Browns had a terrible offensive line. Baker was running for his life. He got sacked a lot. And the success that he had in 2018 was the final 8 games of the season when Greg Williams took over as the head coach. You had switched your left tackle, who was a rookie, into a veteran with Craig Robinson. When Robinson took over, the team gave up 5 sacks in the last 8 games. That is insane. Baker had more time in the pocket. He had more time to throw, but this year he was just running around. It also didn't help that 11 of those interceptions that he threw, and go back and watch the games, it will show 11 of them. 11 of the interceptions that he threw were passes that were deflected off of his receivers' hands and into the defenders. And a lot of people don't realize that or don't mention that because they think like, oh, well, the interceptions are his fault. No, a lot of them are not his fault. A lot of them are his receiver's fault. I think having a better year with an upgraded offensive line, getting Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin to shore up that offensive line, having Nick Chubb back another year, having Kareem Hunt back for the full year, drafting Donovan Peoples-Jones, getting Austin Hooper, having a great head coach, in my opinion, who I think is going to show a lot for this team and is going to do great. I think that it was the best fit. The Browns are poised for a better year this year, and I will admit that if I'm wrong, but I think that they could compete for the top of the division, and they're definitely probably going to get a wild card spot in that playoff drought. But, yeah, Baker, I didn't think that he deserved higher. I think that he deserved the spot where he did. And we'll see at the end of the season if he gets higher on this list, but we'll have to wait and see. Moving on to number 21, 21 and 20, I'm going to get a lot of grief for, and feel free to say what you need to say about it, but I have Derek Carr at 21. Derek Carr inherited a team that, with Jack Del Rio, he ended up going to the playoffs. They went 13 and 3. He ended up fracturing his tibia and ended his season. He couldn't go and play, and I believe that if they could have played, I believe that he could have dethroned the Patriots, and they could have went on and potentially been Super Bowl contenders, but I feel like they would have lost in the divisional round coming out of the wild card spot. But, and then after the past couple years, the team had diminished. They've gotten rid of Amari Cooper, a first-round pick. They've gotten rid of Khalil Mack, a first-round pick. And those have hurt him, but also made him better. He got John Gruden coming in as the head coach, and having him in there has been a whole lot better than what it would have been with somebody else. Now, he and John Gruden inherited a terrible team. Having him and Mike Mayock pair up to try to make this team better. When John Gruden was there his first season back, the Raiders went 4-12. They didn't have anything to work with. They didn't have a good running back, didn't have a good receiving core, didn't have a good defense. And then the draft came. 3 first-round draft picks. They drafted Cleveland Ferrell out of Clemson to be their defensive end. Pairing him and Max Crosby together, a great combo. They drafted Josh Jacobs. And then they also drafted Jonathan Abrams. In my opinion, was the best safety coming out of the draft that year. He's a hard hitter and a great safety, and he could be the potential next Ed Reed. And that is a bold prediction to say already, but it could be possible. We'll have to wait and see how he plays in the years to come. He got Terrell Williams in the free agency, and I know that having him there is an upgrade. That offense is getting better with the draft that they had this year. Derek Carr's stats are going to skyrocket, and I think that they could compete for second place in that division, but the division is getting a lot tougher with the upgrades that everybody else is having. So, having Derek Carr at number 21, I believe is a good fit. Prove me wrong, and do better this year, and I'll have you a lot higher on my list next year. Number 20, I have as Drew Lock. Now, Derek Carr's stats are better than Drew Lock's. I get that. But Drew Lock also only played 5 games, had 1,052 yards, threw 7 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in 5 games. Okay? You're telling me he threw 7 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That is insane. And he went 4-1 as the starter for his team. Okay? And not to mention they upgraded the offense, getting Jerry Jeudy in the draft, which was a steal for the Broncos. But pairing Jerry Jeudy with Courtland Sutton and then having Noah Fant, having Peyton Lindsay, and also picking up Melvin Gordon in free agency, that offense is poised to be better than what everybody thinks it's going to be. And I think Drew Lock is a great guy. I think that John Elway finally picked a good quarterback, and a lot of people don't know about Drew Lock, but go back and watch the games that he did play, and you will see why I had him in the top 20 on this list, and why I believe that he's a good fit. And the Broncos, man, if they can make some noise this year, having Bradley Chubb and Von Miller back on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to make some noise in that division. And there's 7 wild cards, or there's 7 playoff seeds now. They added an extra wild card. I believe that the Broncos could make it in that 7 spot, and their record could be 9-7, maybe 10-6. But with the Chargers upgrading their team, and the Raiders upgrading their team, and the Chiefs still being at the top of the division, it's going to be tough. But I think the Broncos could possibly be second place in that division. It all depends on Drew Lock's quarterback play. Number 19 on this list is Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill took over from the Miami Dolphins and then ended up getting picked up by the Tennessee Titans. They signed him to a 1-year contract, and when he was with the Dolphins, he ended up taking them to the playoffs 1 year that he was there. He didn't do very well, and he also has been injury prone and has gotten injured a lot, and the Dolphins gave up on him. I think that was a terrible choice. I still think Ryan Tannehill is a decent quarterback that could honestly potentially be a franchise quarterback had you given him more opportunities and more chances, but I understand. He's been injury prone, and you wanted to move on from him. The Titans pick him up, Mariota gets benched, and when Ryan Tannehill comes in, that team just clicked. they ended up playing a lot better, ended up going to the playoffs and dethroning the Patriots and going to the Super Bowl by one game, losing to the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think part of the reason why they had so much success is you paired Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill together, and having Derrick Henry was a massive upgrade to that team compared to what it was with just having Tannehill there. If you had to rely on Tannehill most of the time, I believe you could have had the success that you wanted, but it would have been a lot harder. So Ryan Tannehill got number 19 on this spot. There's a lot of people that could say that he deserves to be higher, but the team really ran through Derrick Henry. It didn't go through Ryan Tannehill. If you have it rely more on Ryan this next year and prove that he can actually win the games without Derrick, then I'll put him higher. But at 19, I think it's a good spot for him. Number 18, I had Kirk Cousins. Yes, Kirk Cousins' stats prove that he deserved to be higher on this list. I get that. But with the way that he played the year before that, you could say that, well, he's getting acclimated with his teammates. It is a new team. You can't fault him for that, et cetera, et cetera. But Kirk Cousins has been wildly inconsistent a lot of his career. He made it to the playoffs once with the Redskins. Granted, the Redskins had a terrible team with not so good offensive players, and he gets an upgrade with having Dalvin Cook, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, and then they get Irv Smith Jr., the tight end, and then you have Delaney Hunter. Danielle Hunter. Then you had Xavier Rhodes on the defensive side of the ball. It's a better team that he inherited, and I think that having taken over for Case Keenum, what really hurt that is Pat Shurmur was the offensive coordinator, and it went from having him there to having John DeFilippo take over as coordinator. And the problem with John DeFilippo was that he wanted to rely on Kirk Cousins throwing the ball more, and that's why he didn't have success. But this past year, Kevin Stefanski, the Browns head coach now, took over as the offensive coordinator. He paired the run game and the pass game together, and what happened was they showed a stat that if you had Kirk Cousins throw 35 or more times in a game, they lost. They were 1-6. But if you had him throw 34 or less times in a game, then they were 6-1. And I think pairing that run in the pass game and having the play action passes that Kevin Stefanski did increased his stats and made him play a lot better. So just having him on this list from the first year that he got to the Vikings to the second year, I put him on there because, from the first year to the second year, he increased and his stats were a lot better and he played a lot better. But we got to keep that consistency and keep him going. And I think that if you can keep that consistency and keep him going into this next year, and he can play like that with having a different offensive coordinator, then I believe that he will be a lot higher on this list the next time I make it. And he should be, but now, with this next quarterback, you guys might see an argument to where, why did you have him above Kirk? Well, I put Teddy Bridgewater at 17, and this is the final quarterback for this video. I will give you another video later on showing 16 through 1, but for the last quarterback, I put Teddy Bridgewater at 17 because his whole career he has shown that he is consistently good. When he first got drafted in as the Minnesota Vikings, he ended up taking them to the playoffs. They lost by 1 point because of a botched field goal that just barely missed, and they missed going to the playoffs. He had sustained a terrible leg injury that he potentially almost lost his leg, and he has been out of the league for a couple years. He played 2 seasons in the NFL, got injured, and then ended up coming back, I think, in the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. He bounced around with a couple teams, ended up playing with the the Jets a little bit, and then ended up finally getting a home with the Saints. He was their backup quarterback, and then Drew Brees goes down with a thumb injury. He comes in, he goes to go on to win 5 games in a row. After winning 5 games in a row, you're telling me that he doesn't deserve that spot on this list? And yes, had he kept going as the starter, I feel like he could have won more in a row, or he could have done better. But like, that just goes to show you that a guy who has been out of the league for 2 years because of an injury, and nobody would have thought that he could have played again, still coming back, wanting the chance to play, didn't get the chance with the Jets, didn't get the chance with the Dolphins, because I think that he had a stint where he could have almost been with the Dolphins, but he didn't. And then he ends up as a backup, and then still comes in and wins 5 games. I know you can sit there and say, like, oh, he had Michael Thomas, he had Alvin Kamara, he had, Cameron Jordan on the opposite side of the ball with the defense. But still, being able to come in as a veteran quarterback, taking over for a team, taking over for like a Hall of Fame quarterback like Drew Brees, and not playing in the NFL for, like, I think 3 years at that point, and you still come in and win 5 games in a row, that's insane. You deserve that 17 spot above Kirk Cousins on this list, because that just shows that you are consistent. Now, we'll see how you do with the Carolina Panthers. I know that they have a lot less weapons than what the Saints did, but you still have a weapon in Robbie Anderson that they picked up. They still have Samuel that they have, and then they also have Christian McCaffrey, who is, in my opinion, the best running back in the NFL, dual threat wise and running wise. So it is yet to be seen. But if you can win and be consistent with the Carolina Panthers, you deserve a higher spot on this list, and I'll make sure that I put you on there the next time. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for tuning into this video and watching it. Please like and subscribe, like I have said already, and follow me for more content. You will not regret it. I will upload videos each week. And if it gets better and I start getting the views and the ratings, I will start posting every day. But tune in next time, and wait to tune in for the next quarterback video. I will do 16 through 1, and you will not regret it. Thank you, and have a great day, everybody.